Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Rita Wolfson. I am the founder of Financial Social Work and the Center for Financial Social Work. Today is Equal Pay Day, and I can't tell you how many years I have wanted to do a special event for Equal Pay Day. And here we are, Lisa Gates, who is a consultant, trainer, and coach, and the co-founder of She Negotiates. So fascinating. She is a negotiation, consulting, and training company. She Negotiates is a negotiating, consulting, and training company committed to ending the wage and leadership gaps for window. How perfect is it to have Lisa with us on equal or unequal, actually, pay day?
Yes, actually unequal pay day.
Doesn't it make sense? So
it
Lisa,
doesn't make sense.
Well, it should. I mean, it should be unequal pay day.
Right.
Lisa is co-author of Close the Gap app, which she'll be talking about to you today, as well as a set of video tutorials available online at lynda.com. And these include negotiation fundamentals, resolving conflict, and coaching and developing employees. Lisa is a frequent contributor to Forbes Woman, and the work of She Negotiates has been featured on NPR, CNN, Fox News, New York Times, and the list goes on. But we'd rather share with you all of the wonderful information we've prepared for you today. So, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much. My gosh, it's great to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, everybody, just a little housekeeping. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that rectangle. It may look like this. It may look a little different. You'll see where the question box is. You can submit questions throughout the session. We plan to answer them at the very end, most likely. You can also reduce the toolbar if you want to see the whole screen. And you can also use the question box as an answer box. Okay, moving right along. Today's agenda is the welcome and overview. We've kind of done most of that. I'm just going to talk to you for a few minutes about Equal Pay Day. Then I'll talk about who and what is the Center for Financial Social Work. For those of you who are new to our webinars, then Lisa will do her presentation on better negotiating skills for you and your clients. I'll mention about financial social work certification. Then we will announce the 10 GAP app winners.
Woohoo!
Oh, woohoo! Thank you, Lisa. And then we will have our Q&A. So feel free to send those questions over. I'm going to start with a poll. We like to make our sessions interactive. So we will have some hand raising. We're going to try to unmute someone to interact with Lisa. If that doesn't work, I may have to be the one interacting with Lisa. So I hope somebody's going to raise your hand. But this first poll is, did you know there, and so we do have 5 polls today. Let me find my polls. And the first one is, did you know there was an Equal Pay Day before receiving the invitation to today's webinar? And let me launch this poll. I can say that this is the first year that Equal Pay Day has been so present in the news. Would you agree, Lisa?
In the news, I suppose in the blogosphere, I haven't been paying attention on traditional media, but it's everywhere. It's all over Facebook, all over Twitter.
Yay!
Yep.
I mean, boo that there is an Equal Pay Day, but yay that we're talking about it. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally. Yeah. Okay, well, 75% of you have voted. I am going to count this down and then close the poll and show you what you said. Okay, so 5, 4, anybody else want to vote? 3, 2, 1. Okay, I am going to close it. Okay, we're up to 77, 76%. Go ahead. I'll give you a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to close it. Okay, let's go. 77% of you voted, and this is what you said. So,
wow, that's really interesting.
oh, it is interesting. Wow, 50% of you.
50% never heard of Equal Pay Day before, and I wonder if that's, what was it, 8 years ago, 9 years ago it started, and it was really to bring awareness to the fact that women are not being paid equally, and also about the Equal Pay, the Paycheck Fairness Act.
Right,
I believe.
Right. That's what's so exciting, what's happening right now. And see, I'm not surprised by this, but it just makes me so happy that I went ahead and scheduled this on Equal Pay Day. Okay, so, all right, so 50 more percent of you know about Equal Pay Day, and that's a good thing. Actually, I wrote a blog that's on our website that suggests that women wear red today, and I'm actually wearing red. And
I'm wearing red.
Are you wearing it?
How funny! I didn't even get that invitation or that suggestion. So there you go. It's the power color.
Well, you're supposed to wear red today to indicate how much women are in the red because of pay inequity. Mm-hmm. So just a few slides on Equal Pay Day, and then we're okay, we'll keep going. Equal Pay Day. Women earn only 77 cents for every dollar earned by a man. And that is a huge disparity. You might not think so, but you're going to see what that looks like. So happy unequal pay day, ladies. Wage discrimination. That's costing women in the ballpark of over $400,000 over the course of a lifetime. That's a lot of money.
Right. And especially if you don't negotiate your first salary, it just, increases it
exponentially.
Over time. Yeah. It's exponential. That's right.
And that's why you're here, Lisa. So we're going to get to you, I promise. So mothers are the breadwinners of America. They make up 40% of the primary breadwinners in this country. And so the issue here, though, it's really not a women's issue. It impacts everyone, men, families. Look down here. If there were pay parity and women received $10,000 plus more per year, you could feed a family of 4 for a year and still put $1,500 away, pay for child care costs and still put $3,600 away, pay 3 years of health insurance. It's okay. All right. I was going to make a comment, but I have another poll.
That's wonderful. It's as simple as that. Gender.
Yes, I actually, Lisa's on the West Coast, and she knows I have a son in Los Angeles. And when we were out there a number of years ago, my husband found this bumper sticker. So I don't have it on my car, but I have it here in my office. I've had it here for many, many years. And that's really what it comes down to. So I appreciate your laughing because I'm hoping everybody else was laughing too. So our next poll, how do you feel about what pay inequity costs women?
Wow.
I think this is the one where you can answer more than one. You can answer multiple things. I would have thought some people were surprised. Okay, interesting.
What are you finding?
Well, I have to keep that a secret so people keep voting. I know. I want to tell you, you're the most fun I've ever had with a co-presenter. Really?
Oh, I just
Okay.
can't stop myself.
Well, it's such a great topic. We're having so much fun. I hope everybody in the audience is too. All right, 71% of you vote. Anybody else? Come on. Let's count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we got up to 73.4%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I am going to close it and share it. So, interesting. So 50% more or less of attendees had not known about Equal Pay Day, but 50% of you do know about pay inequity.
Mm-hmm. And some of us are pretty angry about it and shocked. And so there's a, I think there is a correlation, given what we know about equal pay in this country or lack of equal pay, probably correlates to how angry we are with it and our experience, our own personal experience. So anger is good. It's a motivator.
And you would know, and that's what you're going to teach us today. Okay, let me hide that. Let me just briefly talk about financial social work for new people to our session here. Our mission is to help men and women begin the journey to sustainable long-term financial behavioral change, and our goal is to contribute to personal, professional, and financial change. Uh-oh. Don't need that. Okay, so what makes financial social work so special? Its behavioral component is what I feel makes it so special, and its ongoing nature, because this is what people need to change. They need ongoing engagement, education, motivation, validation, and support. So financial social work is experiential, strength-based, psychosocial, multidisciplinary, very, very interactive and introspective. And those are the components that help people to change, especially around money. So taking greater responsibility for your financial future requires more than just learning new financial skills. It is a process. And financial stability is a very personal, individual, and emotional choice. And we have to make it every day, every week, every month, sometimes hourly, sometimes minute by minute. So what is financial social work all about? For me, it represents hope, because there's always hope. It's about change. It's about caring more about yourself, reducing stress, becoming more successful, setting healthy personal and financial boundaries, and most of all, being at peace with your money. And what is it all about? The very essence of it is the fact that your relationship with your money, those thoughts, feelings, and attitudes that drive your financial behavior, it's your financial behavior that determines your financial circumstances, how you earn, spend, save, and share. And of course, the earn piece is really big, so we are about, see, that's where the magic happens. It's the financial behavioral change that changes how we spend, save, earn, and determines better, creates better financial circumstances. So as we get ready to turn this over to Lisa to teach us more about negotiation and salaries, these are just a few of our agency clients, and I already mentioned we're going to have some hand raising. We've done some polls. We have more. We'll have Q&A. And, okay, last poll before we turn. Oh, no, I think we have one more before this. Okay, where are you located? We always enjoy knowing where you're from, who's with us today. And let me launch that. So far, you're really evenly split. We've had people from all around the world, which is always interesting to me, because if you're from another country and you'd like, you can put it in the question box and we can tell people where you're from. We, yeah, it is. Germany, Spain, oh, I can't remember, Italy, we've had people. Okay, someone must be writing it in the box because you took it away from Canada, another country. Okay, 82% of you have voted. Anybody else? I'll count it down. You're more evenly split today than in the past. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I will cancel it and I will share it. So, Northeast and South.
What do you normally find?
I think last time it was very heavily the South, which surprised me. But we are really even. And of course, the time difference sometimes makes it difficult with the Midwest and the West, as you probably know, Lisa. But people who are at work, probably can't just jump on. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over to Lisa. I'm going to let her introduce what she'll be doing with us today and sharing, and then we have a poll of hers before she takes control of the slides. And Lisa, take it away.
Actually, I'm going to do that poll in a couple of minutes. Okay. So if you wanted to
okay.
turn it over, I don't mind.
I can't if I'm going to do the poll.
Okay. Well, go ahead and do the poll then.
Oh, really?
We'll just weave it in. Sure.
Oh, okay. All right. Last poll, then we're turning it over to Lisa. Okay, so I have to find it. And which of the following? Okay, so Lisa's going to work off of this, so it would really be great if you would all fill this out.
Rita?
Yes.
I just didn't hear you for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so.
I was reading some. We have somebody here from Bulgaria. We have people here from Canada. Let's see. Sorry, let me finish that poll up. Okay, 72% of you have voted, 75. Okay, Lisa, you're going to find this really interesting. Okay, folks. Anybody else? 80%. This is our highest return. 81. I will count it down. You're giving Lisa good stuff to work with. Okay. Wow, we're up to 84, 85%. Anybody else? Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm guessing this won't surprise you, Lisa, but here we go, everybody.
Okay, so which of the following most closely indicates your feelings about your own earnings? You say, I'm being paid well for the work I do, 6%. Paid fairly, about a quarter of you. Underpaid, 50%. That does not surprise me. And especially, I'm making a big leap here by saying probably most of you affiliated or in some way with Center for Financial Social Work means that you may be working in nonprofits. And having worked in 3 or 4 in my lifetime, I was always underpaid, so it doesn't surprise me. Paid on par with others in your position, fewer, 17%, and don't know, 7%. I would say that even those of you who think you're being well paid, or at least on par, it would be great for you to do some research and really discover that for real by going to payscale.com or salary.com and looking if it's been some time since you've done that, I suggest doing that research, that sort of objective research, and not relying on asking your girlfriends. I'm also making an assumption that most of you are women here today. not doing research with other women because they are also being underpaid. So when we ask our friends who are in similar jobs as us, what are you getting paid? And using that as a basis, say, for an annual review or your job interview, that's putting you at a disadvantage. So that's fascinating. We'll use this as we go along.
Okay, now I'll hand it off to you, Lisa. You have your screen ready?
Something just went away here. I do, but I'm it just disappeared.
The rectangle in the upper right-hand corner?
Here it is. Well, I'm ready. You can turn it over.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Can you see that?
You need to open your slide. There you go.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, people. Well, okay. So, Rita, thank you for inviting me. And if Dorlee were here, I'd say thank you to Dorlee as well. We're here really together because of social media, because we've been sort of following each other in each other's circles in social media for quite some time, at least Dorlee and me. So I thank her and thank you, Rita, for having me. As we said in the beginning, we're going to be giving away some free passes to Close the Gap app, which is pretty fun because we're in beta, and it would be great to see what you think of the app and help us improve it as we go along. And we'll talk more about that later. We already have picked a few winners. So I want to go back to something that, in talking about Equal Pay Day, there is a statistic, I believe I heard this from Gloria Steinem, that if women were paid equally across the board in all sectors of work in this country, if we were paid on par with men, it would put $200 billion into the economy annually. So when you think about that, like what would we do with $200 billion more per year? That's a lot of stuff. And when you ask women what they would do, if they weren't losing money over time, if you negotiated your first salary and everyone thereafter, and you did not lose out on $1 million, what would you do with that $1 million? Most often, when we ask women that question, they say, well, education. They take care of some of the sort of social ills in their community. They would contribute. So it's always about bettering our world, bettering your own financial circumstances. So that's something that we hear consistently. So, and the other thing about Equal Pay Day, just to put the button on it, is that this is, what it represents is that it took us 3 months longer to make what our male counterparts made by December 31st last year. So today is the day where we catch up with men, right? So a quarter of the year has gone by. So I want to ask, why the hell would we celebrate the fact that it took us 3-4 months longer to make our value, right? So I think, any day that we can intentionally wake up to our true value is a really good day. And regardless of whether Congress never passes the Paycheck Fairness Act, which I think we will, but we still need to be personally good, skilled at asking and negotiating. So consider this your wake-up call. Today, I want to focus on a fairly subtle aspect of negotiation, and that is storytelling. Building narratives that frame your unique value in the hands of your market or your employers, right? So that unique value is the sum total of you. It's your experience, your education, your accomplishments, and the results that you produce day in and day out, right? So we're going to talk about how you can turn that unique value into a compelling narrative with you as the central actor and your audience as the beneficiary. So if you're sitting in a job interview, or you're about to be, or you're in your annual review, we're often called upon to tell stories about how our year went or what the results were that we produced. So I don't know if this will, you may not believe this, but everything I'm going to tell you today is something you already do naturally. I'm simply going to give you the vocabulary and the experience for certain negotiation strategies and skills and the storytelling, and that vocabulary being attached to something that you already do naturally should give you some ease, right? And I want to say that most of the strategies and tactics of negotiation are things that we do reflexively. And because at its core, negotiation is a communication discipline. And we are really good at communication. We're really good at conversation. So when we approach negotiation as something like wholly, completely separate and apart from, say, normal conversation, that's when we start to get itchy. That's when all of our cultural conditioning starts to kick in and we start worrying. We're doubtful. We're doubtful about our value and how so much of negotiation seems like bragging, right? So I want to talk about storytelling as a way of unbragging. So using your story as a benefit to your conversation partner. So we're told either directly or indirectly that when we're asking for things that we want, which we're not supposed to do because we're women, that we shouldn't be loud. We should defer to others, that we shouldn't be self-serving. We should be more community-minded. And certainly, just like in the beginning when Rita was talking about me and introducing me, it's always easier when somebody else does it rather than when we have to toot our own horn, right? So, we shouldn't, so the culture tells us, self-promote. We need to use the we voice. So if we're going to brag, we have to brag, in a way that pulls other people into it. So we did this, and we accomplished that. When we break this code and we step outside our culturally prescribed behaviors or our gender norms, we get pushback. So, we're told that we're being demanding or bossy or barracuda, bitchy, you name it. Girls just aren't supposed to behave that way. So I want to give you a way out of that. Something interesting that happened to me recently, I was teaching at Miami University, and I don't know why I did this. I decided to look up what their motto was, their school motto. And lo and behold, it said in Greek, but I can't say it, so it's to accomplish rather than be conspicuous, right? So it's a great sentiment on the surface. It feels like, kind of the hardworking America that I know. I think I was even raised with that saying, don't brag, just get things done, right? We don't ask for what we want or deserve because we've been told just do, good work and let the rest take care of itself. But because we don't sing our own praises and because we don't ask, we have this wage gap of nearly 30%. And that gap is higher in the professions like law and accounting. So the further up you get in, not skill necessarily, but in the professions, that wage gap can be huge. So women are 4 times less likely to negotiate than men. And when we do, we expect anywhere between, say, 3 and 32% less. That is the wage gap right there. That's why I want to teach you how to unbrag and how to be more at ease. So I want to talk about your story, the story of you, and the multiple stories that you generate over a lifetime. These are vitally important pieces in terms of getting jobs, promotions, getting the projects you want to be included in. You know, let's say when you're networking and you're making connections, story is the thing that we use sort of reflexively, but now I want to turn the headlights on and have you do it intentionally. So let's say you want something. You want a raise, you want a promotion, you want to be included in a project. That wanting is not a bad thing. The process is to dovetail who you are and what you bring to the party in a way that inspires other people to want you back, right? So how do you make connections or have conversations of influence and intention in a way that moves you past any barriers or capitalizes on your future potential and gets you hired, gets you promoted, gets you clients? And the answer to that is to communicate your story. And I want to say that the key words here are intention, audience, connection, conversation, and influence. And we'll be getting to those in depth in a second here. But first, I want to tell you a quickie story that we can use for the rest of the time here. And this was something that happened to me when I first started out in my career. I was working in public relations and marketing, and I was working for a company called Porter Novelli. It was about 20 miles away from my office. I was living in LA, so I had to drive from Glendale to the west side of LA. And by the time I got to work, there was so much traffic. The commute was so horrible. I was angry. I was fit to be tied every single day. It took me about an hour to calm down, so you know, before I could even get any work done. So one day I was there for about 6 weeks, and I went into my boss, who was a man, wonderful guy, and I started to tell him about my commute, and I said, I can't work here anymore. And I just started crying, and I was blubbering, and I said, I can't stand the commute, and I was just this sort of female mess. And he just looks at me and says, is there a question in there somewhere? And I said, what? You know, nobody was talking about it. He said, do you have a question for me, or are you just going to sit there and cry? And I couldn't think of anything. It took me a minute, and finally I said, well, okay, yes. If I'm going to stay here, can I come in at 11 o'clock and leave at 7? And he looked at me and goes, yeah, that'd be all right with me. All I wanted you to do, Lisa, was to turn your complaint into a question, and you did. Turn your complaint into a request. So I tell you that story because, well, let's test it for some of those things that I talked about earlier, the key words here: audience, intention, connection, conversation, and influence. So I'll ask you, Rita, how about my audience? Did I take into consideration my audience? You know, who's listening here today? You know, and what do I know about them? What do I think they want or need, or how can I be of value to them? And so what do you think I did in terms of audience?
With regard to the story you just told?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So by telling a story sort of when I was less capable, right? Usually I tell this story over and over again to demonstrate how the day that I woke up about asking for something. I had something churning in me for weeks, and I didn't ask, and I didn't want to lose my job, but you know, of course, you know, in telling you this story, it gives you sort of movement. It gives you possibility, shows you that you can go from 0 to 60, right? So that this is a part of your research and preparation for any negotiation is to know your audience, right? And to know perhaps what their fears are or their needs or their preferences. The second aspect is intention, and this is also part of preparation for any story you're going to tell or any negotiation you're going to have, is what do I want? Why am I telling this story? And how does it benefit my audience, my boss, or the person sitting across from the table? So what do you think the intention here was, Rita?
Oh, I just love being on the spot here, but I
know, isn't it wonderful?
I'm going to take a wild guess and show that we as women very often circumvent and avoid the real issue, and your story demonstrates that. Your boss at the time had no idea. Well, he did have an idea what you were talking about, but he also
he didn't know it was a problem. Right.
Right.
Right. And so you have to have an intention for telling your story is really what I wanted to get across there. The third thing is that we have to make a connection with people, and in my silly example, I connected through tears, but how most of us connect is by small talk and getting related in some way, getting connected. So the next aspect is that a story, the stories we tell, the stories, that story, it has to be conversational. It isn't something, we don't sit down and just tell a story and do kind of follow a paint by numbers kind of process. It has to be conversational, has to be authentic. So oftentimes before we sit down to an actual negotiation, there is some front loading. There's time for getting connected and having a connection and a conversation in advance. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later too. Okay, and then the last piece of it is influence. Did the story have an impact in a way that caused somebody to change or make a decision? So in the stories that you tell in job interviews or with potential clients or in your annual review, say, the reason that you tell certain stories is so that you can get the result that you're looking for, right? You're going to land the job. You're going to solve somebody's problem, or you get promoted or included in a new project, for example, or you just get people interested in learning more, right? So as I said, I've used this story repeatedly in job interviews and networking meetings and presentations. Anytime that, even though it portrays me in not so powerful light when I knew less than I know now, it communicates an aha moment and a time when I was less than, but when I recognized I had the power to change something. So in this case, it was turning complaints into requests, best advice I ever got. So, now I want to tie this sort of storytelling process into negotiation. And the way we define, or I define negotiation, is that it is a conversation. And it's a conversation that leads to agreement. So it's a conversation with an intention, and it starts by getting connected. And during that conversation, you're going to exchange things of value. And you're going to come to some kind of an agreement, which means most likely that you will have been influential. So since we're talking about you and your bragging rights, we have to start with your story. So it's a particular kind of story. So I want you to be thinking right now about an experience or an accomplishment or a result that you produced in the recent past. So say this year or in the last 6 months of the year. So this accomplishment needs to illustrate, kind of brand you, who you are, and the value you bring to your conversation partner, to your boss, to your market, to your clients. So the point of the conversation is not to brag about yourself, but to talk about the value you bring in a way that produces results for your conversation partner, right? So these are the results that you are counted on to produce in your work. So you've got a job description, you've got goals that are set for the year, and being able to sit down and tell the story or build a narrative about how things went or how you accomplished those goals is the sort of conversational aspect of how you move the dial forward in terms of getting a raise or a salary adjustment of some kind. Being able to tie it to results, to the bottom line in some way. So I want to talk about story structure. In every good story, there is a theme, and let's just take the a review or a potential job interview that you have as the basis for this. Let's say that the theme or the goal you set this year in your job, let's just take a nonprofit, that maybe you need 500 more donors by the end of the year, or you need to increase your funding by X percent. So you might have a little roadblock in there, which is that you can't spend any money to get this result. There's no additional funding for this initiative. And this is what's been happening all across America, all across the world probably, especially during the downturn and the recession, was you have to do more with less. You have to be more productive, and we're not giving you any money to do it, right? So somebody wants you, Rita.
Sorry.
It's okay. So that's your roadblock. This is, what got in your way on the way to producing this result, right? And the resolution is how you did overcome that and what happened. That's the basic story structure of any good story. So I want now for you to tie this storytelling to some of the fundamental strategies and tactics of negotiation, okay? And that is interest-based negotiation. And interest-based negotiation simply means that we do what we can to discover our bargaining partners. To discover our bargaining partners' interests, preferences, needs, goals, fears, their wish, their future, their wishes about the future. So the first skill that I want to talk about is the power of small talk. We talked about this a little bit earlier in this, in terms of building story. Small talk is often overlooked, and the research shows that people who engage in small talk in the very beginning are much more successful than those who do not. And one of the reasons is that small talk releases a hormone called oxytocin. It's the bonding hormone. So people who are good at chit-chat and getting the ball rolling and, things like talking about, how's your kid's soccer team doing, how do you like your new car or your new office, anything that gets you connected and kind of eases you into the conversation will really serve you in good stead. Now, people hate it when I say this. They want to just skip to the good stuff and get the ball rolling when I cannot remember the number, but it does improve your outcomes substantially to do this. And if you can have a negotiation, have your conversation over a meal, even better. And notice that these two women on the screen are sitting down parallel to one another. Whenever you can have a negotiation conversation across the table or next to someone, as opposed to, say, somebody who's behind the desk and you're over in a chair. See what you can do to get people on your side of the table and to be at the same level so that there's the perception of equality, right? So that's the power of small talk. Now, the other thing that goes along with this sort of storytelling process, and this is also a preamble to the actual request you may be making, is, and this is the backbone of interest-based negotiation, and it's diagnostic questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Open-ended questions. So the trick to having a conversation in which you've got to demonstrate how you can solve your conversation partner's problem or challenge or need is to ask diagnostic questions. And what you learn from doing this will help you frame your story as a benefit to them, right? So diagnostic questions help you discover, again, what your bargaining partner wishes, what their goals are, their needs, preferences, fears, and hopes about the future. And once you know this, you'll be better poised to give it to them or to help them get it, and they the same with you, right? So diagnostic questions actually come from the domain of mediators and coaches. Again, it's part of this whole communication discipline. And I would say that for the rest of your lives, this is the one skill that will help you connect and listen. It will help you focus on the other person, and it will help you learn enough information to brainstorm and solve problems. And this is probably the best part. Diagnostic questions are most useful when you get stuck, when you hit impasse, when you hear the word no. So you now have the most reliable skill for getting past it, the most simple thing in the world, asking questions. And remember I said that everything about what I'm going to teach you today is stuff you already know how to do. Now you have to apply it intentionally. So if, they're closed-ended versus, open-ended versus closed-ended. So let's say you're in a job interview and you say something like, you're talking long, you've asked for what, you've talked about what you've told a story about your accomplishments and what you've been doing all year long, and you say, is it possible for me to get a raise this year? Now, it's just as easy for somebody to say no to that question because you've asked a closed-ended question. If you ask an open-ended question, it might sound like this: what can I do now for you to be in the ballpark for a raise in January or a raise next month? That little subtle shift opens up more conversation possibility. It's not answered with a simple yes or no. So you want to do what you can to change anything from a closed-ended question or a statement into a question that's open-ended, so you can generate more conversation and learn more, right? So I think the statistic on diagnostic questions is that a full 94% of people do not use them, do not ask questions when they hear the word no or some sort of resistance, when it would influence the outcome of their negotiation by that same percentage, 94%. And it seems so simple, people always discount it. But the more you can employ diagnostic questions, the better you will become as a negotiator. The next skill is framing. And framing is creating a perspective around the subject of your conversation. We do this naturally all the time. So let's say for those of you on the East Coast who are enduring all of the snow, I might say, wow, the snow is so beautiful, isn't it? When you might say, yeah, right, some spring we're having. So, we're always framing our world, always telling people what our perspective is. So, again, back to a job interview situation, how do you frame your skills and capacities, the results you produce, as a benefit to your employer, right? So we are actually going to practice this right now. So as I said in the beginning, and Rita warned you that that I'd be picking on a volunteer to test this out and try this out as if we are, let's say, in a job interview. Do I have a volunteer that we could, do I need to send this back to you?
No. If someone wants to volunteer, please raise your hand. If you look in the in that rectangle in the upper right-hand corner, you will see a little hand that you can click on. And we don't have any volunteers yet. Anybody want to?
It won't be torture, I promise. And it will actually really help people to hear us in conversation.
I have
180 people, 200 people.
I have a volunteer. Okay.
Yay!
Okay. And I won't even say this person's name if she doesn't want me to. Now, let's see. Attendee is muted. Click to unmute. Okay. Well, that didn't work. Let's see. Lower Shannon's cross hand. I'm trying to unmute you, Shannon. Okay, Shannon, you're unmuted now. Can you talk to us, Shannon? I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, I'm not either. Darn.
Shannon?
Well,
Shannon? You're unmuted if you want to say hello.
Maybe her own phone is not is muted. Can you try that?
Okay, I have another volunteer.
Okay.
Gabriella. Let's see. Gabriella? I think Gabriella doesn't. I think the problem is people don't.
Well, why don't you and I try it, just in the interest of time, because I think we've just got about 5 minutes left. I'm sorry about that. Would you be willing to do that, Rita?
I guess.
Well, okay. So can you think of something that you did this year that was somewhat of a challenge? There was a goal you had, something that you needed to do to achieve that goal. Maybe something around your business, around the Center for Financial Social Work. And like really just like maybe 30 seconds of that story. See if you can we'll go back to this, go back to the story structure, and see if you can tell me a story about that demonstrates the value.
Wait a second. I have somebody. Denisa? Who? I hear someone. Can you say hello? Either Denisa or Gabriella. I just unmuted. Karen Troy? I just don't think I'm going to be the greatest example. I can tell you stories about things I accomplished this year, but I don't think that's the best example. And we do have someone unmuted on the call now.
Well, darn. In the event, I don't know how, I'm not running the control, so I don't know how to get people, get it unmuted or to help you out.
That's not my problem. My problem is I would like to help you with this, but um, I I'm in business for myself. I can't think of a way to share with everyone my roadblocks to my accomplishments. I mean, financial social.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you another example. I'll give you an example from a woman who actually worked. She was a client of mine who worked for a nonprofit, an education nonprofit in Michigan, and she discovered that she was seriously underpaid. She was making around $70,000, and everyone in the rest of the state doing the job that she was doing was paid around $9,500. So she had a substantial difference to make up. And so she did a lot of research, et cetera. But one of the things that she did was to tell the story she told that was most compelling was that she, in order for her to accomplish the goals of her job, she often had to go out and seek funding to get grant funding. And what she discovered is that for the past 8 years, she had succeeded in getting $50,000 to $60,000 in grant money every single year, which was not a part of her job description. It was just something she developed the capacity to do. But she told this story to her boss and said, this is actually, I'm telling you this story about the $50,000 every year that I've generated to show you that if you did give me the raise, I've already paid for it. And I've paid for it every single year that I've worked here. I've gone beyond, above and beyond the call. And the results that I produce for you, that this is not even a part of my job description. So in reflecting on the money that she had raised over time, it became unavoidable for them to give her a raise because she was paying for her salary. She was nearly paying for her current salary, but she was certainly now paying for anything, any raise she might get, which was, by the way, $110,000 is what she ultimately got to put her on par with everyone else. So that's the story she told to justify her raise, but she framed it in such a way that it was the benefit to her employer was obvious. So I'm hoping that makes sense.
I think that's an excellent example. I really do.
So
okay.
Here we are. We're almost out of time, and I just wonder if there are any questions that people want to ask.
Well, can you hand that over to me, Lisa?
Yes, I can. Okay.
I know that everyone on the call, or some people, wrote in that they really wanted to hear a real example. Can you stay with us a little while, Lisa?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
As long as you need.
Everybody, how about if you stay? So one person suggested that they could type in the chat box or the question box, and I could read it to you. But let me finish up. We have one more poll, and then we have to name the winners. We have those 10 winners, and you need to tell people about the Gap app that they're winning. So
that's right. Close the Gap app is an interactive tool that we designed with Take the Lead and Gloria Felt. And it's really, part leadership, part negotiation. It's more like an online course than it is a quickie app. So it's something that you can do in parts and pieces and save till later and come back. But one of the things it does is it helps create an ask letter. You'll go through identifying your market value, and it'll give you an ask letter that you can use as the basis for your conversation. And it also produces basically what we call a strategic plan at the end of the end of your process for you to know, sort of how to move your career forward. It's a strategic career plan, really. So it's brand new, and we'd love to have you participate. Whether you win or not, it's $10. So I'm hoping you guys can take advantage of that.
Okay, so I have this final poll about how you feel about making the commitment to ask for a raise. Open right now, Lisa. Can you tell everybody your website?
It's shenegotiates.com, and if you click on shenegotiates.com/resources, there are tons of free resources there. Also, if you look at our online or the video tutorials, you'll see a link there to all of the Linda courses, which is just next to free. It's very cheap to be a Linda member, and I believe you get 2 weeks free. So you can watch any course that Linda offers in that free 2-week period. So anything that we teach or that I teach is there for the taking.
Great. Okay, we'll run that through one last time before we close today. Finally, let me show you the answer to this poll. This is that question that we had, Lisa, and so you can see.
Boy, 30%. I want to deal with this one thing. According to management, there will be no raises this year. Okay? That is what we have been told for the last 8 years, 6 years, especially during the downturn and the recession. If that's the case in your place of business, the question you need to ask is, when will that ban be lifted? What can I do to bring myself into parity, or bring myself? What can I do to be to position myself for a raise in the future? And when will that be? When will things be likely to change? And also use that conversation as the moment in which you get to tell somebody who may not know what you've been doing all year about your accomplishments in that same conversational storytelling kind of way that has them as the beneficiary, right? No is only no if there's no conversation afterwards, right? But if you use those diagnostic questions to open up a conversation and brainstorm, you may get a little better traction. And use your conversation partner as your problem solver, as your partner in problem solving.
That's great advice. I'm glad we did that question and that you had the chance to address it. So this is Lisa's information, and shenegotiates.com/resources is where the app is, and it's just $10. Finally, to finish up, about financial social work certification. So financial social work certification is 5 workbooks that are self-paced and self-study. Our students have up to 6 months to complete it, and have 2 weeks to complete the online exam. It's only $495, and there are 20 CEs available with it, included for those who need CEs. Okay, so our 10 GAP app winners. You will hear directly from Lisa. She will send you an email with the link, and I'm just going to move them right up here. She'll send you an
clapping. Yoo-hoo!
Go ahead, Lisa.
Elizabeth,
go for it.
Heather,
Leslie, Shawana, Anne, Elizabeth Story, 2 Elizabeths, Jessica Fleek, Joy Clark, Catherine Green, and number 10 is Amy Bark. And those are our 2 winners. So I want to thank...
Congratulations, everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll send you an email as soon as we're done here.
And thanks, Lisa, for being so generous. And since it is in beta, Lisa would love to hear back from you about, and she'll tell you that, about your thoughts on it and your suggestions to make it better. So does anyone have any questions? Let's see. Someone did write in here, sometimes you can negotiate for non-monetary, more along for benefits. We do have questions. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Um, can Lisa share what type of work or job title her client had working for a nonprofit and making 70K? Okay.
Oh, I love that question. Well, it was education. It was for the department. Let's see. I think it was a statewide. So she was working for the state, but still, that's a nonprofit structured by the state. I don't feel comfortable telling what it was because to me there's a client confidentiality.
Absolutely.
But what she does is she's an instructional designer and a techie geek. Really, she is responsible for designing online and blended learning opportunities for for the education system in Michigan.
Okay, she has certain skills. So,
absolutely.
How can you find out if you are being paid fair wages at your agency if the agency policy discourages employees from discussing salary?
Well, they can discourage you, but it's not illegal, right? It's actually, I think it's actually illegal for them to prohibit you from knowing that. So, there are people that you connect with, people who are sort of in your posse, if you will, that you can talk to about what they're making. But that's one way. Or somebody who is in another agency like yours in a similar kind of position, and I would ask the men in those positions, if there are any, I would ask them what they're making. And you can go to websites like Glassdoor or Payscale.com or, oh gosh, I always forget them. But you can research your salary by putting in, say, your job title or like job titles. And in some cases, you can enter how, your length of experience, your education, all of those things that should improve your salary. Plug those in, and you can see what people are making across the country. They give you a little bell curve, and you can see what the salary range for that position should be.
Okay.
Another place to go is getraised.com, GETRAISED.com. That is by far my favorite site to use. One of my favorites.
Lisa, okay. This one's very interesting. How would you respond to a non-profit setting where you were told that any money for wage increases takes money out of services for those in poverty? Is there really room to negotiate for struggling not-for-profits?
Again, I think that this is the drawback. I mean, we are compelled. Some of us are compelled to work in nonprofits because we have a social justice bone. We have a desire to contribute to the planet in some way that's a benefit to other people and not just reaping profits everywhere, right? So I'm not saying run with your tail between your legs. I'm saying use your bargaining partner, use your boss or your boss's boss or someone in your organization as your partner in brainstorming how you might improve your salary. What other ways are there to achieve that? And just like the example I gave of grant funding that was not restricted in some way for salaries, because often when you're applying for funding, there are certain restrictions, and most often it's salary that they don't want to see their money going towards. That's not always the case, but often. And I guess what I would say to that is to ask yourself what the impact on not just you but your entire family is of making of staying in that job. If you're seriously being hurt by the fact that you can't make it every month, you should consider looking at what else might be out there. And according to government statistics and the jobs report recently, we are definitely moving out of this recession. 190,000 jobs, I think, were added last month. I could have that wrong, 190-something, 90,000. I'm not sure if it was month or quarter, but we are moving out of it. You're not stuck where you are, but at the very least, start having the conversation and start asking what needs to happen, or how can I move past this so that I can do a little bit better.
Well, someone did suggest asking for non-monetary things, such as a vacation or more time. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. When you really are seriously underpaid, when you're not quite